The haunting of Hollow Grove Amusement Park. It was a chilly autumn evening when a group of 5 friends decided to embark on an adventure that would change their lives forever. They had heard whispers about the infamous Hollow Grove Amusement Park, a place long abandoned and shrouded in mystery. The park had been closed for over a decade after a series of unexplained accidents and strange occurrences. Rumors circulated about the malevolent spirit of a clown who once entertained children there, but the friends dismissed these tales as mere urban legends. As they approached the park's rusted gates, the wind howled through the trees, sending a shiver down their spines. The entrance was overgrown with weeds, and the once vibrant colors of the park's signage had faded to a dull gray. Despite their apprehensions, the thrill of exploration outweighed their fear. "Come on, it'll be fun," shouted Jake, the most adventurous of the group, as he pushed open the creaking gate. The others followed hesitantly, their flashlights flickering against the encroaching darkness. Inside, the park was a haunting shell of its former self. Rides stood still, covered in a thick layer of dust and decay. The Ferris wheel loomed like a giant skeleton against the dimming sky, its seats swaying gently in the breeze. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and rust, and an eerie silence enveloped them. "Let's check out the funhouse first," suggested Mia, her eyes gleaming with excitement despite the chill in the air. The others exchanged nervous glances, but ultimately agreed. They made their way to the funhouse, its warped mirrors reflecting distorted images of their anxious faces. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt heavier, and an unsettling sensation crept over them. As they wandered through the maze of mirrors, laughter echoed faintly in the distance, a child's laughter that sent chills down their spines. "Did you hear that?" whispered Sarah, her voice trembling. "Probably just the wind," Jake replied dismissively, though he couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. They continued deeper into the funhouse, and suddenly, one of the mirrors cracked with a loud bang. Startled, they jumped back as shards of glass fell to the floor. Just then, a flicker of movement caught their eyes. In one of the mirrors stood a figure, a clown, with a grotesque grin painted across his face. His eyes were hollow, devoid of any warmth or joy. "Guys, I think we should leave," Tom said nervously, backing away. But before they could turn to escape, the lights flickered ominously, plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as they fumbled for their flashlights. When they finally managed to turn them on again, the clown was gone. "Where did he go?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe it was just a trick of the light," Jake suggested, though he felt uneasy. They decided to leave the funhouse, but found that the exit seemed to have vanished. The mirrors began to warp and twist around them, creating an endless maze. Shadows danced along the walls as they stumbled through the disorienting passageways. Suddenly, they heard it again, the laughter. This time it was closer, more sinister. It echoed through the funhouse, bouncing off the walls until it surrounded them completely. "Run!" Sarah screamed as she turned to flee. The others followed suit, their hearts racing as they pushed through the maze of mirrors. But no matter how fast they ran, they felt as if they were being drawn deeper into the funhouse's twisted embrace. Just when they thought they might find an exit, they stumbled into a large room filled with broken carnival games and tattered banners. In the center stood a tall figure, the clown, his face illuminated by an eerie glow from an overhead light. "Welcome to my domain," he said in a voice that sent chills down their spines. "I've been waiting for you." The friends froze in terror as he approached them, his movements unnaturally fluid. His costume was ragged and stained, and his painted smile seemed to stretch unnaturally across his face. "Why do you disturb my slumber?" he asked, tilting his head curiously. "Don't you want to play?" Jake stepped forward defiantly. "We don't want anything from you. Just let us go." The clown's smile widened. "Oh, but that's not how it works here. You see, once you enter my world, There are games to be played and prizes to be won." Before they could react, he snapped his fingers, and the room transformed around them. The walls shifted and twisted as if alive, trapping them in a nightmarish landscape of carnival horrors. "Let's play hide and seek," he exclaimed gleefully. "You have 1 minute to hide and then it'll come find you." Panic surged through the group as they scattered in different directions. Mia ducked behind a broken game booth, while Tom squeezed himself into a dark corner, behind some old stuffed animals. Sarah and Jake rushed toward what appeared to be an exit, but found themselves facing an impenetrable wall. The countdown began 1 to 3. The clown's voice echoed hauntingly through the air. Mia held her breath as she listened to his footsteps echoing closer. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she desperately tried to suppress her fear. The laughter returned, echoing through the twisted corridors. The countdown reached 10 when she heard a chilling whisper behind her, "Ready or not, here I come." With every step he took, Mia could feel her skin crawl. She peered out from her hiding spot just in time to see him glide past her booth, his eyes scanning for movement. He paused for a moment, as if sensing her presence, but then continued on his path. Mia knew she had to find her friends and escape this nightmare before it was too late. She crept out from her hiding place and moved cautiously through the maze of broken attractions. As she searched for Jake, Sarah, and Tom, she couldn't shake off the feeling that she was being watched. Meanwhile, Jake and Sarah were still trapped against the wall that had sealed them off from escape. They banged against it desperately, but it wouldn't budge. "What do we do?" Sarah cried out in panic. "We have to find another way," Jake shouted back. "We can't stay here." Suddenly, they heard a scream echo through the park. Tom's scream. Their hearts sank as fear gripped them tighter than ever before. "Tom!" Jake yelled, but there was no response. The clown's laughter rang out again, sending chills down their spines. "1 down, 3 to go. Let's go," Jake urged Sarah as he turned away from the wall and began searching for another exit. As they moved deeper into the park's twisted landscape, Mia finally found Tom, but he was not alone. He stood frozen in front of a horrifying sight. A wall covered in photographs of previous victims, lost souls who had entered Hollow Grove and never returned. "Mia!" Tom shouted as he saw her approach. "Look at this!" Mia gasped at the sight of smiling faces twisted in terror, their eyes wide with fear. Among them was a photo of a young girl wearing a clown costume, the very same one that haunted their nightmares. "We need to get out of here," Mia urged urgently. But before they could leave, they heard footsteps approaching, heavy and deliberate. The clown emerged from the shadows, his grin wider than ever. "You're not leaving yet," he said gleefully. "The games have just begun." The friends turned to run, but found themselves surrounded by warped mirrors, reflecting distorted versions of themselves, terrified faces staring back at them in horror. "Choose your fate," the clown cackled. "Will you face your fears or become part of my collection?" As they scrambled for an escape route, Mia felt something cold brush against her arm, a hand reaching out from one of the mirrors. She screamed and pulled away just as Tom grabbed her wrist. "Over here," he shouted as he led her toward what appeared to be an exit, a narrow passageway that seemed to pulse with an unnatural light. But before they could reach it, the clown blocked their path once more. "Not so fast. You must play by my rules." Desperation filled Mia's heart as she glanced back at Jake and Sarah, who were still trying to find their way through the maze of mirrors and shadows. Suddenly, everything went dark again, the lights flickering ominously before plunging them into complete blackness. "Stay together," Mia called out into the void as she felt Tom's grip tighten around her hand. In that moment of darkness, whispers filled their ears, echoes of past victims pleading for help mixed with maniacal laughter that sent shivers down their spines. "We have to find each other," Jake shouted into the darkness. But it was too late. They were already separated once more. Mia could feel her heart racing as she stumbled through the darkness. desperately trying to remember where she had last seen her friends. The laughter grew louder around her until it became deafening, a cacophony of madness that threatened to swallow her whole. Then suddenly light, a faint glimmer appeared ahead of her like a beacon in the night. "Mia!" She heard Tom's voice calling out from somewhere nearby. She rushed toward it without hesitation until she found herself standing before another mirror, a massive one that reflected not only her image but also something sinister lurking behind her. In horror, she turned around just in time to see the clown's shadow looming over her, his grin stretching impossibly wide as he reached for her with long bony fingers. "No!" she screamed as she stumbled backward into the mirror's surface. But instead of shattering like glass, it rippled like water, pulling her in with an unyielding force that left her gasping for breath as she was dragged into darkness once more. As she struggled against whatever held her captive within this twisted realm of nightmares, a realization dawned upon her. This wasn't just an amusement park, it was a prison for lost souls, bound by fear and despair, a place where laughter had turned into torment and joy had become anguish. And somewhere within that darkness lay her friends, trapped, like her, facing their own demons, while being hunted by an evil that thrived on their terror. To be continued. The haunting of Hollow Grove Amusement Park. Part 2. Mia felt herself being pulled deeper into the mirror, the cold grip of the clown's presence surrounding her like a suffocating fog. The world around her twisted and warped, and for a moment, she lost all sense of direction. She could hear the distant echoes of her friends' voices, but they were drowned out by the sinister laughter that reverberated through the darkness. "Tom! Jake! Sarah!" she called out, desperation clawing at her throat as she fought against the unseen force. But no answer came, only the chilling echoes of the clown's laughter. Suddenly, she found herself standing in a dimly lit room, surrounded by mirrors reflecting her every move. Each reflection seemed to show a different version of herself, some terrified, some defiant, others lost in despair. In the center of the room stood the clown, his eyes glinting with malicious delight. "Welcome back, my dear," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "I see you've found your way into my little game. Now, let's see how well you play." With a flick of his wrist, the mirrors began to shift and change, creating a labyrinth that twisted and turned beyond comprehension. Mia's heart raced as she realized she was not alone. Shadows darted between the mirrors, whispering her name. "Stay focused, Mia," she muttered to herself, trying to shake off the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. "You can find them." Determined to escape this nightmare, she took a deep breath and started moving through the maze. As she navigated the reflections, she caught glimpses of her friends, Tom hiding behind a mirror, Sarah reaching out for help from another. But every time she tried to reach them, the mirrors shifted, separating them further. "Guys, incoming!" she shouted, her voice echoing in the oppressive silence. Just then, a loud crash resonated through the room as one of the mirrors shattered, sending shards flying everywhere. Mia ducked instinctively as the clown's laughter filled the air. "Let's make this interesting," he taunted. "You have until midnight to find your friends and escape. If you fail, well, let's just say you'll join my collection." Panic surged within Mia as she glanced at an old clock hanging crookedly on the wall. It was already ticking down toward midnight. She had to act fast. With renewed determination, she sprinted toward the nearest mirror that reflected a path leading to Tom. As she approached it, she felt a surge of energy coursing through her body. "This has to be it," she thought. She leaped forward, crashing through the mirror's surface and landing in a different room, this one filled with carnival games that had come to life in grotesque ways. The prizes were twisted remnants of past victims, stuffed animals with hollow eyes and broken toys that seemed to whisper secrets of despair. "Tom!" she called out again, scanning the room for any sign of him. "Over here!" came a faint voice from behind a stack of broken games. Mia rushed over and found Tom crouched down, his face pale but relieved. "Mia, you found me," he exclaimed as they embraced quickly. "We have to find Jake and Sarah, right? Let's go," she said, glancing around for any signs of their friends. Together they moved cautiously through the room, navigating past twisted games that seemed to reach out for them with claw-like hands. The laughter of the clown echoed ominously in the background, reminding them that time was running out. As they searched desperately, they stumbled upon another mirror that shimmered invitingly. "Maybe this leads us to Jake and Sarah," Mia suggested. Taking a deep breath, they both stepped through together. They emerged in a dimly lit corridor lined with more mirrors, each reflecting their anxious faces. Back at them, "Jake, Sarah," Tom shouted, his voice echoing through the hallway. Suddenly, they heard a response, a faint cry for help coming from one of the mirrors. They rushed toward it and found Sarah pressed against the glass, terror etched across her features. "Help! I can't get out!" she screamed. "Hold on. We're coming!" Mia shouted back as they frantically searched for a way to free her. In that moment, the clown appeared at the end of the corridor, blocking their path with an amused grin. "Oh dear, it seems you're quite attached to each other," he mocked. "But there's only one way out of my funhouse." Mia felt a surge of anger and fear. "Let her go," she shouted defiantly. The clown laughed maniacally. "Very well. But know this, if you want her freedom, you must face your greatest fears." With a wave of his hand, he conjured images from their past, dark memories that haunted them all. Mia saw flashes of moments when she felt powerless. Tom relived times when he had failed those he loved. Sarah faced her deepest insecurities. "No, we won't let you control us," Mia yelled, stepping forward with determination. The clown's laughter faded slightly as he realized their resolve. "Very well," he said slowly. "If you truly believe you can conquer your fears, then prove it." With that, he vanished into thin air, leaving only darkness behind. The mirrors began to ripple and distort as shadows danced around them. "Together," Tom urged as they joined hands with Sarah. "We can do this." Mia closed her eyes and focused on her fear, the feeling of helplessness that had plagued her for so long. She visualized herself standing strong and unafraid. As she opened her eyes again, light began to seep through the darkness around them. One by one, they faced their fears head-on, Mia breaking free from her insecurities, Tom embracing his failures as lessons learned, and Sarah confronting her doubts with newfound strength. With each victory over their fears, the shadows retreated until they were left standing in a bright light. In that moment of clarity, they realized they had transformed their fear into power. The mirrors shattered around them in a burst of light, revealing an exit, a door leading back to reality. "Let's go," Mia urged as they rushed toward it together. They burst through the door and found themselves outside Hollow Grove Amusement Park, under a starry sky. The air was cool and fresh, a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere inside. "We made it," Sarah gasped as they collapsed onto the grass outside the gates. But as they looked back at the park, they saw something that sent chills down their spines, the silhouette of the clown, standing at the entrance, watching them with an unsettling grin before disappearing into the shadows. "We're free for now," Tom said breathlessly as they stood up together, still shaken but alive. Mia took a deep breath and looked at her friends. "We need to tell everyone about this place," she said firmly. "No one should ever go there again." As they walked away from Hollow Grove Amusement Park hand in hand, they knew they had faced something truly terrifying together and emerged stronger than ever before. But deep down inside, they also understood that some nightmares never truly fade away. They linger just beyond the edges of reality, waiting for another chance to strike. And so ended their harrowing encounter with Hollow Grove, but not without leaving behind scars that would remind them always of the darkness lurking beneath the surface.